All right, hey guys, how we doing? Sam here with you. It's Tuesday, December 18th, and as it's a Tuesday, we're looking at traditional assets today. So, as we do every day, we poll our members, we let them choose what gets analysis here. So, first up by request is the Aussie dollar to the New Zealand dollar. Now, I have this up here on a daily chart, and I'm kind of, sometimes I assume more than I should. So if I bring up so you look here, so here's the daily chart, and you go, oh, we're always going all the way back here to April of 2015. That probably gives me everything I need to work with. And you start looking here, and you go, shit, man, what the hell do I have here? Well, it's just, again, not to be overly simplistic, but you got to step back out and get some context as to where you are. So once you step out and we look at this and you go, oh, okay, well, now it's, as I will often recommend, particularly with foreign exchange, you have to go out to the daily or above. I will tell you 4 hour and above. But so you got to figure out where you are in the context, right? Assuming you're approaching this with your Elliott Wave hat on. So then once you step out, well, then it starts to get pretty clear, right? So the waves just kind of jump out, right? It's hard to miss them. So that, we got a 5 down. Something corrective seems to be happening here, but this first 5-wave impulse is almost impossible to miss. So what's happening here? What would this mess? Well, I've got it over here with some work done on it. So just looking back here now, we've got to go all the way back here to 2011. So Aussie New Zealand. So this is a 4.5-year trend, right? But look how beautifully it's technical. It's right. So here's between the 38, we got a nice little ABC. You got every nice subdivision here in the third. Now we don't quite make target down here on this. So on the idea of this 2 through the 3 pulling here, we go right into the Vegas wave, right between the 23 and the 38. You see here, this is just eyeballing some stuff here. So clearly this area has been important to the market. That's been awfully stiff resistance here, starting with the 4. Well, come down here, we finish here. So you look and you go, that's a bit far for a front run. So what do you do with that? Well, you kind of got to trade what you see, right? So based on this completed 5, it's hard to argue with anything other than a completed 5 here. Right? So this, even on the outside, I suppose you could make some sort of an argument that this was the 3 and this was a 4, which that still potentially is there, but the subdivision is all in place. So we can go 1, 2 into this 3, and if we think about likely locations for a true third in an impulse like this, well, we're not to the tick here, pretty close. This would be down at the 272. I think this is a stronger count because we can complete the correction. So I'm inclined to stick with that until proven otherwise. But then we've got to dig in here and say, well, what the hell has happened since then? So I'm going to go from the 3-day down to the daily here. We can get a better look at this. So on the assumption that this is a 5 that's complete, so assuming we've got this correctly identified, right? We are making that assumption. If this 5 is in, well, we're looking for an ABC. We've had 5 down. We're looking for an ABC. Well, you can make the case here. It's unusual, but this area here is remarkably stiff resistance. So coming here, if this is our A wave here, and you can make a pretty good case, we get a little 1, 2, 3, 4. Is this? It's since you have a double top, I don't know that it really matters. It looks like there's an ABC here, and then we come in. So I'm inclined to think that this would be the top of the 3, ABC down for the 4. Looks like that's you wouldn't get any targets being hit here. So even if we took this one, and you got second target here. So there's a perfect 38, but again, we stop up here and we double top. So given that, it looks like you can go A, and then we get an ABC into an ABC, and then we get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you've got a really nice flat here. So we get a 3, 3, 5 down so the ABC of the B, and then we get just an absolutely textbook expanding diagonal. Right now, I had a viewer the other day acknowledge that I had misidentified one because the 5th was not longer than the 3rd. Right, so here we've got, it's just absolutely textbook. So in an expanding diagonal, the expectation is that the third longer than the first, fifth longer than the third, and we just get it just perfect here, just right into this prior resistance. So you can make a pretty strong case here that we've got our ABC completed. So if that's ABC right into that prior resistance, we're done here as a C. Leaving next 1, 2. Now that's deep for a 2, but you can see the very pretty subdivision here. So just Elliott 101, we trend in 5s, we correct in 3s. So a pretty strong case for that ABC to be corrective of this move down. Right, it's deep, right? There's no question it's deep. So we know a 2 can go, well, do we get the 887 there? We might. Oh shit, where do I do it? Here, let's get the 887 on there. All right, so between the 786 and the 887, yeah, that's steep. That's steep for a 2, but we hold. It's still an internal retracement. Looks like the reaction here would suggest that this count is in play, so that would suggest 1 ABC for 2, and we're looking for the third down here to go to, at the very least, challenge these lows. So let's think about where we could be going. If that's 1, 2, well, first thing we're going to look for is 100% the length of the 1. See if we can qualify this as a third. So this would be a minimum, right, to acknowledge that we have the potential, a candidate for the third. Here's where you're looking for the higher probability zone, but now that's pushing us into lows we've not seen before. And then a 4 and potentially now a 5 would take us all the way down here to new lows. Now you got to kind of pull out and say, well, is that what are the odds of that? Is it probable? Well, given this history, we've never been down there before. So here I'm going all the way back to 2000. Here's 2006. So we'd be looking at new all-time lows here for this pair if this count's going to play. If this is completed 5, ABC is in. We've got a flat here with this ending diagonal. 1, 2 is underway. There's no reason to assume anything other than 3, 4, and 5 to finish. Right, this is it's just you could take your Elliott hat off and just say we're in a giant range. So you could look at it in this way and say, okay, well let's simplify. So here's resistance, and here's we have to probably include this down here, right? So this would be the extreme, but so we're approaching support levels here. Right, granted, it's been broken before, but you can see test, didn't quite get there. A retest, the 100 is right there. So this will be interesting to see if this has the legs to get all the way down to go after that third, 4 and 5 still to come. So you certainly are in a sideways market here at this degree when we're looking at a 3-day. But again, so even though that's deep, even though we've had this 887 here, there's still going to be median lines here. We'll note what we've just done. All right, so there's your corner pocket. Now, granted, it's deep, right? So you wouldn't know, right? So you could have been easily taking this. Oh, at the golden, you could have been there. Right? So you don't know until you get a pivot to work with, right? Now the assumption is, as long as this pivot holds, 80% probability of making the median line. So we have our corner pocket realized. There's our 80% realized. As I get this right on there. Yep, we just enough to tag it. Right? Remarkably consistent. Let's get this tightened up. All right, so actually now as I tighten it here, looks like we're to and through, but we're getting this reaction here. So very common to see a stutter right at the median line. If it's going to hold there, then we should see the potential is there. So if this is coming down, this could be the 1 wave of the third. Then you'd see a bounce back here. Then we go down for the 3 and the 4 and the 5. We might finish along that kind of degree. So as I look at this, there's no reason to assume anything other than we have a pause here. Granted, this is a 3-day chart, so this could take a little time to move off of this. We're back here at these levels of prior support. But right now, there's no reason to assume anything other than more down. More down. If this is 1, 2, now we could go down. Let's get down into the nitty gritty of this leg here. So it looks like you could have. Boy, that's a little. I'm still on a daily. Let's go to the 4-hour. See, we can get some clarity into what we've got here. So it looks like you can make a case here that we've got a 1. What do we have? wait, so AB, we could do it this way. So that would be, so potentially three going in, 4 and 5. Got to put them somewhere. Not making a prediction there. So let's just do it this way. So do we have enough here? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That potentially works here. Now I'm still on a 4 hour. So if this 2 is in, 1, 2, that looks like could be technical. So there's my one wave here. Well, we get the 50 here, but this looks like it's this looks like A, B, C, D. Shit, can't have a triangle, so we'd have to go A, B, C into it. So you'd have to do it this way. So you'd have to go A, B, C into a B into a C this way. So we get some sort of a flat here. Did we get 5 there? It's about 4 hour. I'd have to dig that out, but it looks better than this is 1, 2. It looks like this is all part of this corrective action before we head lower. So this looks like the better count here. So 1, 2. Now so you can see. Shit, didn't even notice this. So here from the 50, right? You see what happens at the algo target. So that's already been realized. So as we head down, so if this is 1, 2. 1, 2. Now let's measure for our third. Well, here's our negative. That's going to be close to it. Here's our negative 100, which we know is just a good shorthand. So if we have this correctly identified, and this is 1 and this is 2, so where are we looking for our 3 high probabilities? Oh, shit. I swear to God, sometimes this amazes me, even as I do them here. So 1, 2, there's our high probability zone. Where do we go? And we get a median line tag here as we hit that 3. So potentially now, we don't know, but that looks like, oh, this looks like just an A wave has gone in here. So if I bring this back, this looks like we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it looks like that's an A that's gone in. A, B going in, C. All right, we may get another flat. No way to know. So let's put that in yellow. Let's go to micro. Okay, so let's pull back out on that. So that looks like potentially now you've got an A, B going in here. Now we don't know that we. So if we look at it, it does look like there's 5 in that A. So the anticipation would be we've got another little kick here to get that C to give us a better looking 4. Right, we don't know where that's headed. So if we pull this off here, now so look at the length of time of the 2 relative to what would be the 4. Doesn't quite play as well, and you can see the good subdivision here. Let's go to. We'll do it in blue. So it looks like you can go 1, 2. I got to check that. 3, 4, 5 is in. So it looks like we've got that is done. So the tell will be, so that's deep for a B, but we know a B we can have an expanded flat. So let's pull that out. So we have the possibility here that now we're just waiting for another kick up to get a better looking correction. So where's the trade? So we can look at it this way. If that 2 is correctly identified and this 3 holds as our low here, well, so let me pull this off. So here's right where we'd be looking for it. Here's our prime zone here at the 38. So we've got some prior resistance here, prior support. So as we look at that, this is a prime, so what a nice setup. So if we get this, if we get the push into the 5, look where we're going to run into that pivot, some potential resistance would bring us down here for that to be done. So we'd have this to complete that entire move. So we'd have it completed, right? If we get it, here's the count. So we'd have 1, 2, 3, A, B, C into the 4, down for the 5. So symmetry looks fairly solid there. So just pulling that off. It's nice looking impulsive structure, so that we don't know for sure, as we don't know if this holds, how we respond here, but that tag of the median line sets that up. So that's certainly one that I'd be kind of keying off of and looking for that opportunity to catch this short sale here. So I would want to know as we approach. So the first thing, I would probably put it right here. I'd put it right here. So I would look for an ABC into that to finish. ABC, there's the next trade set up for that short. So the risk reward there looks quite good. So if we look here, going after that first algo target. So there's 8.7 to 1. right? On the assumption that we're not gonna go. So you can give it more room. Here, let me move this over a bit and get this out of here. Okay, so if you want to give it all the way to the 50, well, you're just reducing your risk-reward profile. So now you're at 4-to-1. So this becomes a function of how much room do you want to get it. 50 would be the max. So if you're going to get the 4 to the 50, right, we know that'll be just a straight algo play, but let's look how it looks up here. So if we're coming here from swing high to swing low, right, which again, as I remind you all the time, algo doesn't care about the Elliott count. Here's a dominant swing to a dominant swing, or dominant pivot high to a pivot low. So if we're going to get the full retracement, then that 38 is there as a contender. But until we break, let's get this, until broken, there's no reason to assume anything other than just standard ops. From the 2, length of the 3, we're looking for the 38. Right, this is a judgment call as to how much room you want to give it. You want to tighten it up and say, well, if I don't get the turn here and we don't come into this structure and get the move down, well, then I'd rather take the smaller loser, right? It's a loser nonetheless, a smaller loser, and reevaluate and see if I like this better at the 50. Now you'd have one loser under your belt on the assumption you took the full hit there, and now you've got, again, you don't need to go this far on this because we're looking for the 4, even though you could make the case here that, well, as long as it doesn't overlap the 1, the probabilities start being reduced if we go that deep for a 4. So just no reason to give it that much room. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Looking for the 4, first place to look for would be right here. Right, then potentially you set up that. Well, there's the 8.93 to 1. So that's one to be watching here. Now, before I leave this here, anytime you're trading FX, I almost forgot to mention this, just to be sure, you have absolutely positively got to be aware of any significant reports or central bank statements or actions that may be coming. So Forex Factory, pretty much the default as to where to go find this. So I have these referencing only high in red and medium impact in gold here. So as we look going into tomorrow, what do we see? Aussie dollar, employment change, unemployment rate. Those are potentially market moving. They're in red, high impact. And we have the Fed statement about what they're doing with U.S. rates, and that will just, well, all the markets will respond to that, particularly if there's any sort of a surprise. So when you think about that in terms of what we're looking for here, you know, that potentially there's the fuel to get this to kick up to one of these levels. If we break down here, then this will be a bit of a tell. Then we've got to reevaluate the count, because this move from the 3 into what I'm proposing is the A high is a pretty solid looking 5. So a good looking motive wave. So this we'd have to reevaluate if we're going to go to substantially lower lows here. If we're going to come down here and go after that algo target. But that seems less likely. So until we see something to the contrary, I would not be trying to trade this going into that report. I would not be looking to trade the length of the B into the C. It's just the probability factor is just not as strong. Even though the risk reward is not bad, you can put the stop right under the pivot. So if you think about it, I mean, it's, oh shit, I hate when I do that. Okay, hang on. So you come over here. I mean, there is a trade there, right? If you're, but high risk, right? So if we go underneath the pivot going into an employment report, bit of a crapshoot, 4-to-1. Right, but the stop is reasonable, right? So if you get just under that pivot here, 4.4 to 1, something to consider. It's not what I would trade. I would wait for this, right, and get more confirmation here that I get the ABC that I'm looking for, right? But if you're itching for a trade, you got one there. Otherwise, I'd look for the 4 and the 5 to finish this up. All right, guys, that's pretty much all I got there, and I'll be back. We're looking at one more today, so back in a little bit.